Everyone assumes that being the best in the world requires doing more. More hustle, more complexity, more sacrifice, more of everything. And then you look at Erling Haaland's daily life and you realize he sleeps 11 hours a day. He eats simple whole foods his father cooks for him. He goes to bed at the same time every night, wearing orange glasses to protect his sleep. Before every home match, his dad makes him lasagna. That is it, no drama. No late nights, no complex optimization strategies that require a team of specialists to execute. Just sleep, eat, train, recover, repeat, and somehow, within that radical simplicity, he became the most clinically efficient striker on the planet. Today we are going to talk about why that is not a coincidence, and what it means for how you approach your own life. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to PsyWealth, Richie. Today, we are going somewhere that I think will genuinely surprise you, because we are not talking about Haaland's goals or his records or his physical dominance. We are talking about something much more interesting: the psychology of simplicity, and how the most boring daily routine in professional sport produces the most extraordinary results. If you are new here, subscribe. Now let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers, because they genuinely don't make sense until you understand the psychology behind them. In his debut Premier League season, Haaland scored 36 goals, a record that demolished the previous benchmark by 10. His goal per game ratio across his career defies all historical comparison. He scored 2 goals against Brazil at the 2026 World Cup to book Norway's place in the quarterfinals for the first time in history, a moment he described as one of the most insane days in Norwegian history. He is at 25 years old, already being compared to the greatest footballers who ever lived. And when sports scientists and performance analysts look at what is producing those numbers, what they find is not complexity. What they find is a disciplined daily routine built around training, recovery, and nutrition executed with almost boring consistency. The secret to being the best in the world turns out to be doing the basics better than anyone else, every single day, without exception. Let me start with the most counterintuitive part of Haaland's routine. He sleeps 10 hours. He has stated this in multiple interviews, in the specific tone of someone communicating a non-negotiable fact rather than a lifestyle aspiration. He supplements that overnight sleep with a 60 to 90-minute afternoon nap, giving him a total daily sleep volume of approximately 11 hours. That figure is the highest among elite footballers by a significant margin. He goes to bed at the same time every night. He sleeps in a cool, dark room. He wears blue light blocking glasses 2 hours before sleep to protect his melatonin production. He gets sunlight in his eyes first thing every morning to reset his body clock. Now here is the psychological lesson underneath all of that. Most people treat sleep as what happens when they run out of things to do, as the thing that gets sacrificed first when life gets busy. Haaland treats sleep as the foundation of everything else, as the non-negotiable anchor around which every other element of his performance is organized. And the research is completely on his side. Sleep deprivation reduces reaction time, decision-making speed, emotional regulation, physical recovery, and creative problem-solving, all simultaneously. Protecting sleep is not laziness. It is the highest leverage performance investment available to any human being. And Haaland figured that out before most of his peers even started thinking about it. Now let's talk about what Haaland eats, because this is where his philosophy of radical simplicity becomes most visible. Haaland consumes 6,000 calories daily, focusing on whole foods and organ meats, heart, liver, eggs, fatty steaks, fresh fish, root vegetables, a homemade smoothie of milk, spinach, and kale that he brings to training himself. And before every home match, his father's lasagna. What's more interesting than the calorie count is what's missing. He skips processed food, sugary drinks, and alcohol almost entirely. No calorie counting, no complicated macro tracking, no expensive supplements replacing real food. Just whole, simple foods eaten consistently. That is the entire nutrition philosophy. And here is the psychological principle underneath it. Most people make nutrition complicated, because complexity feels like effort, and effort feels like virtue. They count macros and track apps and optimize windows and cycle carbohydrates and feel productive doing all of it. Haaland eats liver and eggs and his dad's lasagna and scores 36 goals in a season. The complexity was never the point. The consistency was always the point. Here is the part of Haaland's routine that separates him most dramatically from athletes. With similar physical gifts, his relationship with recovery, he treats rest as something he schedules on purpose instead of something that happens when he's run out of things to do. Ice baths 4 to 5 times a week. Physiotherapy built into his schedule the same way training sessions are. Red light therapy, cryotherapy chamber at home, daily mobility work, targeting hips and groin because he once had poor range of motion and fixed it through consistent stretching. And that flexibility is now what allows him to score from angles that shouldn't be physically possible for a man his size. Now I want to be clear about something. You don't need a cryotherapy chamber. You don't need red light therapy or hypoxic training chambers. What you need, what the actual transferable lesson is the mindset underneath all of those tools. The understanding that recovery is not a reward for hard work. It is part of the work itself. The output you produce is only ever as good as the recovery that precedes it. Haaland treats every recovery session with the same seriousness he brings to every training session. And that simple shift in how you classify rest, from reward to investment, changes everything about how consistently you are able to perform. Here is what I want you to really understand about Haaland's approach to life. He said, "It is how you sleep, how you prepare yourself for the next training, how you prepare yourself for the next game, how you recover from the game. It is a whole package. That is not a complicated system. That is 4 things: sleep, prepare, perform, recover, repeated. Every single day with absolute consistency, no drama, no social media chaos, no late nights, no distractions that compromise any of those 4 things. Most people's lives are filled with complexity that produces almost nothing. Dozens of commitments, dozens of distractions, dozens of decisions that fragment their energy and attention across too many directions simultaneously, and the result is a life that feels busy but produces less than a life organized around radical simplicity. Haaland is the most productive striker in the world right now, and his daily life is almost boring in its repeatability. Sleep, eat, train, recover, eat his dad's lasagna, play football, score goals, repeat. The complexity was always the enemy of the output, and the simplicity was always the secret. I want to be direct about something. You cannot copy Haaland's specific routine. You don't need 6,000 calories a day. You don't need 11 hours of sleep if your body doesn't require that. You don't need organ meats for breakfast. But here is what you can copy: the philosophy underneath the specifics. Identify the 3 or 4 things that actually determine the quality of your output. The equivalent of his sleep, nutrition, training, and recovery. And then protect those things with the same absolute non-negotiable consistency that Haaland protects his. Stop adding complexity that produces the feeling of productivity without producing the reality of it. Stop sacrificing the fundamentals for the distractions. Stop treating rest as what happens when you finish everything else. Schedule it, protect it, treat it as investment rather than indulgence. And eat your dad's lasagna, or whatever the equivalent is in your life. The simple, reliable thing that grounds you before the important moments. Because here is what Haaland's entire story teaches about success that most people never fully accept. The results that look extraordinary from the outside are almost always produced by something that looks unremarkable from the inside. 4 things done right, every single day, without exception. For years, Erling Haaland is the best striker in the world right now. And the foundation of that position is not magic. It is not genetics alone. It is not a secret system that nobody else has access to. It is 11 hours of sleep, whole food eaten consistently, training taken seriously, recovery treated as investment, and his father's lasagna before every home match. That is the whole system, simple, repeatable, boring, to describe an extraordinary in its results. Because the results that look impossible from the outside are almost always just the compounded output of the basics done right on the inside. Subscribe to PsyWealth Richie. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that the most powerful thing they can do right now is probably the simplest thing they keep skipping. We will see you in the next one.